Hey, it's Liz from No Trace. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make these adorable mini pouches. These sew up really quick, and they're also an excellent way to put some of your fabric scraps to good use. So let's go. We're going to use 2 pieces of fabric for the outside of the mini pouch that are 6.5 inches wide and 6 inches tall, and then the same measurements for our inner layers of fabric, 6.5 inches wide, 6 inches tall. And then I am using a 5-inch zipper. You could cut a longer zipper down to 5 inches. So the length is the actual teeth part of the zipper, but the tape goes a bit further. I always like to use cotton zippers with metal teeth because I try to avoid plastic whenever I can. I'm also going to be adding a little no trace tag because I like to add that to all my bags. And then I'm also going to be adding a little loop of fabric on one side. This is totally optional. It just gives the bag a little bit of extra pizzazz. So just a little ribbon or a little mini strap if you want to add a little bit of pizzazz to your pouch. Step 1, we're going to be adding one of the outer layers of fabric to one side of the zipper. And I'm going to go ahead and clip it in place, but this is such a small project that you could also possibly not clip it in place, but let's clip it because that makes it easier. I like to use metal binder clips because, again, I try to avoid buying plastic stuff. So these are just regular old office clips. And now I'm going to add my liner fabric into the clips. So they are going to be, the liner fabric's touching the back of the zipper, and the front of the zipper is touching my outer fabric. So I'm just going to add this piece into the binder clips. And then we'll go ahead and take it over to the machine, and we're going to stitch with a 1/4 inch seam allowance right along this seam. All right, at my machine, I'm going to go ahead and pop off my standard presser foot and swap it out for a zipper foot so that we can get closer to those zipper teeth. And just put that away for now. And I'm going to go ahead and start. It doesn't really matter where you start, but I like to start away from the zipper head if I can, just so I can get a nice straight line started before I bump into that zipper head. And I'm going to go ahead and do about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to make sure to do a back stitch at the beginning and then just go all the way down. So I'm getting near the zipper pull, so I want to make sure to push that out of the way. I have my needle in the down position. I'm going to lift the presser foot and then just push this needle back out of the way. And it can be a little tricky, but just take your time and you'll get it past the needle and the presser foot at some point. Okay, so now we just keep going. Okay, so I've stitched all the way across, and I should have used a darker thread so you could see that. But in the next step, I'm going to go ahead and flip open the little pouch, and I'm going to repeat those same steps on the other side of the zipper. So I'm going to attach the 2 layers of fabric to this side of the zipper. Okay, so now the second 2 pieces of fabric have been attached to the zipper so that when I flip it around, you can see I have the beginnings of my pouch. Now we're going to take it to the iron, and we're going to do a little bit of ironing. We're going to go ahead and iron the outer layer so that it's pushed away from the zipper teeth. That way it'll lay more flat in the next step. So just take a moment and press the outer layer so it's laying flat, and then flip it over, and then make sure that the inner layer of fabric also lays nice and flat away from the zipper teeth, just like that. Okay, back at the machine, I still have my zipper foot on, and what I'm going to be doing is top stitching through just each of the outer layers, but I don't want to actually capture my inner layer in my top stitch. So I'm going to open it up so that the inner layer is pointing this way and the outer layer is pointing this way. And I'm just going to top stitch right along the zipper tape with about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So it looks like that. Now we're going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to be top stitching through the outer layer of fabric while the inner layer of fabric is pointed away so it doesn't get caught in the seam, and just do about 1/8 of an inch all the way down. Okay, so we can see that I've top stitched both sides of the zipper, and it's always a good idea to check that your zipper is opening smoothly at this point, and it is. In the next step, we're going to be clipping the layers together, and we actually want our zipper to be open almost all the way. And we want the outer layers to come up and face each other, and then the inner layers are going to face each other. Now is the time to put any tag or little loop into your bag if you want to do that. Again, this is totally optional. So what I like to do is I like to start clipping at the zipper on the sides where the zipper is. And I want to make sure that the zipper tape and teeth are pointed down into the liner part of the bag, the little pouch that we're making. And then just go ahead and get a clip right on that spot. And then I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing on this end of the zipper. So make sure that the zipper tape and teeth are pointed down into the pouch. And then we can do our best to line up the seam here and go ahead and get a clip right on there. Next, I'm going to put the little loop of fabric, the little bit of ribbon or strapping, in between the outer layers of fabric. And I'm going to put it where the zipper is open, so the end of the zipper, not where the zipper pull sits when it's closed. So if you peek inside, you can see that when the zipper is closed, it's going to be over on this side of the pouch. So I'm going to put my little loop on the other side of the pouch. And I'm just going to have the folded over edge on the inside. I'm putting it about 2.5 inches away from the bottom corner. Go ahead and clip that in place. And now I'm going to put my little tag on the other side. And again, the fold is going to go in between the layers. And I'm going to go ahead and clip that in place also. Now, this is such a small pouch. I'm just going to add one more clip to the bottom and one more clip to the other side. And then I'm going to take it over to the machine. Back at the machine, I'm going to take my zipper foot off and I'm going to put my standard presser foot back on for this next seam that we're going to make on our mini pouch. I'm going to start sewing on the inside layer of my pouch. And I need to leave an opening of at least 3 inches here so that we can turn the whole pouch right side out. So I'm going to start my stitches about 2 inches from the corner. I'm going to do a back stitch at the beginning. Oh, I'm using a 1/2 inch seam allowance also. Now as I get near the zipper, I'm going to take my clip away. And I do want to be careful not to sew over any metal. So if you're using a metal zipper, make sure you take your time and that your seam allowance is no more than 1/2 inch. And now I'm getting close to my tag. So just make sure the tag is in position, feels straight, and keep going. Okay, now I'm getting near the little loop of fabric that I put in here. And I am going to actually sew over it a couple times just in case someone wants to tug on it, like one of my kids wants to tug on it and push it to its test. So I'm going to go ahead and reinforce it. Okay, I'm back getting near the end, so I'm just going to go a couple inches away from this corner and do a back stitch. And finished. So hopefully you can kind of see that. Once I have stitched all the way around, we're going to go ahead and mark off the corners to make some boxed corners and give the pouch a little bit of depth. We're going to be giving our little pouch 1 inch boxed corners. So we're going to draw a 1 inch square on the seams. I've got a ruler here and I'm just going to trace a 1 inch square on the corner just using a pencil. I know it probably doesn't show up super well for you, but we just have a little 1 inch square marked right on the seam, and then I'm going to repeat that for the other 3 corners. Once you have your corners marked out, you can decide if you want to go ahead and cut those corners off or if you want to leave them in your bag. which is what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna leave these corners in the bag, and the way I'm gonna box them is by opening up the 2 layers. So just sort of tugging the 2 layers apart and straightening out this corner so that we have a nice pointy corner here, a little triangle. And we can see the line that we drew from marking off a 1-inch corner. So we're gonna go to the machine and we're gonna stitch straight down that line, and we're gonna kind of imagine how it would end if we drew that line all the way across. Or you can just take a moment, get your ruler, and draw the line all the way down the point. So you have options. But we want to take this to the machine now and stitch right on that line. All right, so I'm gonna get this pointy corner under my presser foot and just stitch right down. I am gonna do a back stitch at the beginning and the end, and I do wanna make sure that my fabric is laying really flat on both sides so that I don't get any puckers in my corner. Okay, so you can see I've stitched right on that line. Now I'm just going to repeat that for the other 3 corners. After all 4 corners are sewn up in the way that I did them, if you box them, if you choose to cut them, then you would have, this fabric wouldn't be there and you could save those scraps for something else. But if you decide to leave your fabric on, it's going to look like this. And we're almost done with our mini pouch. This is actually a really fast project. So we're going to go ahead and turn it right side out through the opening that we left in the liner fabric. Go ahead and make sure the zipper's open all the way at this point. And you might want a chopstick to push the corners out from on the outer layer. And also you could push the corners out on the inner layer. Once all the corners are pushed out, we're gonna go ahead and line up this opening. We want to fold the opening so that it lays nice and flat so that we can top stitch it closed. You could press this at the iron, but I usually don't. I don't really think you need to. I'm going to get this under my presser foot, and I'm going to be sewing the opening closed with about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to do a back stitch at the start and stop. Okay, I've stitched the opening in the liner closed. I'm just gonna trim my loose threads, and this little pouch is almost done. Just push the inner layer inside the outer layer, and if you've left the corners in place, you can kind of feel around and push the little triangles of fabric up to the side so that your bottom pouch lays nice and flat. Once you have the corners all tidied and lined up nicely, the last thing to do is just give it a little press at the iron. And now the mini pouch is done! Hey, real quick, we have a Zero Waste Sewing and Crafting Facebook group. I'd love to see you in there. I'm putting the link in the description below this video. I also have another tutorial that's all about making another really cute mini bag. The other one has handles. And if you made it this far in the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the No Trace channel to get notified about all of our videos. We put out a new video every single week on zero waste sewing, crafting, and lifestyle tips. So I'll see you again very soon.